What's up, y'all? Thanks for tuning into another episode of Culture Hacker. Well, on this channel, the goal is to simply change the narrative. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. On this episode, I wanted to talk about Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was never intended to help black people. And here's proof.
Give me a yes if you believe Black Lives Matter, right? I'm going to raise both hands because I definitely believe Black Lives Matter. I knew that my life mattered because that's my life. I'm black and it's very important to me, right? So Black Lives Matter is something we can all agree with. That's something we can all relate to. So it resonates with a lot of us, right? Black Lives Matter. Yeah, Black Lives Matter. Woo. Here's the problem. Black Lives Matter is not an organization that was created by black people. Most of you know this. I want to make sure that we reiterate this. George Soros, a liberal white billionaire, created Black Lives Matter, funded Black Lives Matter so that he could galvanize black support under the umbrella of a leftist agenda, right? What does that mean? Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean it's bad. Some of the ideas are very good ideas. But you must understand the difference between an organization that includes black people versus an organization that is run by black people. You must know the difference between a vehicle that is owned and driven by black people versus a vehicle where black people are, play the role of the front left tire, right? You have to understand the difference between being in a vehicle that black people are controlling versus one where we're in the passenger seat or we're riding in the trunk. Black Lives Matter is an organization that is being driven by the George Soroses, being driven by the leftists, whether it's Antifa or whatever, being driven by the Democratic Party, where black people live in the trunk. Black people we are the front left tire. You know, some might even say we're the engine because we drive a lot of the politics in America. So I think that while you can certainly respect and appreciate part of the agenda of Black Lives Matter, I don't think that they're necessarily bad. And in fact, I don't have any problem with an agenda that supports the rights for members of the LGBT community to be respected. I don't have any problem with an agenda that supports the rights of women to have all the equality that they deserve. I don't have any problem with an agenda that says that American capitalism is certainly quite abusive to the poor, and we need better safety nets. We need a wealth redistribution. I don't have any problem with any of those things. But I think it's very important to understand the difference between a Black Lives Matter agenda and a black nationalist Malcolm X style agenda, right? A black nationalist agenda says that that's more of the mission that we have in the Black Business School. Black people should educate our own children. We should create our own jobs. We should support our own businesses. We should police our own communities. We should control the politics in our community. That's a very different agenda from what Black Lives Matter is talking about. In fact, a Malcolm X style agenda or a black nationalist agenda, Marcus Garvey-ish, style agenda of black liberation, true black liberation, it kind of just means that we just get to control our own destiny, and we're not going to get caught up in what they call the horizontal issues. Dr. Claude Anderson in Powernomics speaks extensively about horizontal issues, like whether it's feminism or it's immigration issues that may or may not help black people. He actually speaks in a way that explains how immigration was used to dilute and to harm the black community, how they wanted to bring anybody into America except black people so that black people would have less economic power, so black people have less political power, right? So a lot of the issues that are going to be brought to the table by a leftist, Black Lives Matter, George Soros, Democratic Party line of thinking is going to be in complete contradiction, in direct contradiction to what you would pursue with a black nationalist, black power-ish sort of agenda. When you're talking about true community empowerment, true liberation, development of our families, etc., that's not in alignment with a lot of the conversation that you'll see on Black Lives Matter, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to read, and this is all out in plain sight. The Black Lives Matter is not hiding any of this. Guys, let me back up. They're not. It's not that they're hiding it. They're just putting that shit in the fine print. They're putting it, they're like, it's right there on the Facebook page, but they'll put it at the bottom of the page. So they'll spend, because they want to indoctrinate you into their movement, they'll spend a couple paragraphs saying it's outrageous that black men are being killed by the cops. And you're like, yeah, that's right, it's outrageous. And it's outrageous that racism exists in America. Yeah, that's outrageous, that's outrageous. And then at the very bottom, it's like, oh, by the way, we affirm we are anti hetero supremacy or something. They create words like that, like if you're heterosexual, you think that you're superior to people that are gay. So the Billy Porters of the world are like, yeah, heterosexual black people are bad, right? And then and then they go into this whole thing that is, it's interesting. It's almost like we love the black men, or we can identify with black males when they are victims, when they are weak, when they are being abused by the police, but we do not identify with the strong black males who want to lead a family. We want to tell the women, you don't really need these guys because they're filled with toxic masculinity. So the same agenda that appears to be liberating you is really only putting you on life support so they can come in and cut your throat in the middle of the goddamn night, right? The same people that claim that want to keep a George Floyd alive are the same ones who want to send your black son to prison under the Me Too movement because a white girl accused him of rape and has no evidence whatsoever. So you have to be able to understand that you have kind of these dual objectives sort of being placed here, that where they can actually love a George Floyd in one condition and hate a George Floyd in another. If George Floyd were alive and he were doing, some of the things that they don't approve of as a black man, whatever that means, then he becomes the enemy. But when he's being killed by the police, he becomes the ally, right? So let me explain some of this. Let me dig into this. Hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. And also make sure you subscribe. You can go to drboycetv.com. That's the home for intelligent black people. If you're not black and intelligent, I don't want you on my channel. So here's what Black Lives Matter put on their page on blacklivesmatter.com. They have a page called What We Believe, and I'm going to read this as fast as I can. It's a long statement, but it's very important to kind of break this down so we can kind of just know what it is and know what we're signing up for when we get into certain things. The other reason why I want to read this is because you got to understand all this corporate money that corporations are now, allocating to black people isn't really going to black people. It's not going to build independent black schools. It's not going to necessarily build independent black businesses, or it's not going to really sustain and support black families. It's going to Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter can pursue whatever agenda they have, right? Which might or might not include black people.
He makes a very great point here. It's amazing how society plays on our emotions. This is a spiritual game.